And we're back. Sorry about the technical difficulties. Obviously, we had an internal clock error, but now it's been resolved. So back to the issue at hand, talking about Clockboy, talking about the impending defamation suit against not only my boss but others that are strong voices in conservative media and media in general. Ben Shapiro being one of them. So I want to take you back a little ways, about a year and a half ago, as I was explaining before our tech difficulties stopped us and halted us in our tracks. We had Clockboy here in Irving, Texas, actually right down the road, actually very soon to when I moved to Texas, in which he brought a homemade clock that he had taken apart with wires sticking out and circuitry sticking out. Somebody saw something in the school, said something, because that is what we are taught to do, is see something, say something, and then guess what happened? Claims of Islamophobia, claims of profiling, and then we know that President Obama worsened that by inviting Clockboy to the White House for astronomy night and gushing over the boy genius. Then after that, though, we had Clockboy move to Qatar. Then apparently his family decided that they were going to fight back against this, and they were going to go after my boss and others for defamation, Ben Shapiro being one of them. So I'm sitting here today with Ben Shapiro's attorney, Chris Gober, who is kind of been fighting this, an ongoing battle here. You had a hearing this morning. Fill in my Facebook viewers as to what we're battling here.
So back in late September, October, the Mohammeds filed a defamation lawsuit against a number of defendants, including Glenn Beck, Fox News, Ben Shapiro, Ben Ferguson, and others, and effectively alleging that statements that they have made on the air and in the media defamed the Mohammeds. There were kind of in the aftermath of the controversy,
Let's go back to what he said, though, on air, because he was on the Kelly file, right?
Yes, he was.
He's on the Kelly file. So this is Ben Shapiro on the Kelly file talking about Clockboy, and he made commentary, because he's a political commentator, saying that he felt, in his opinion, that this whole thing was a hoax, that this was Clockboy's attempt to get attention and also to set this up to bait people into these claims of Islamophobia. So he had mentioned that he had put that out there using his First Amendment right as a commentator to advance that and advance his opinion, and that was what the Mohammed family found so egregious.
Well, that's what we presume. I mean, I will tell you, their allegations were so poorly pled. It's not exactly sure kind of what comments that Ben made that they found so objectionable. What we can kind of surmise from it is, Ben said that this was a setup and a hoax. Two terms that by themselves, those are not defamatory. They don't have a defamatory meaning. Ben had also talked about how the president, or how the father had actually twice ran for president of the Sudan, had met with a bloody dictator that is known for genocide.
And the son met with the bloody dictator as well, and documented it.
Raised the fact that they had hired a spokesman for an organization that has been known as, has been identified as a conspirator of terrorist activity.
Which is the
Center for American Islamic Relations.
Center for American Islamic Relations. If you haven't seen my discussions with John Guandolo from Understanding the Threat, take a look at exactly what that organization stands for. You're right, it's essentially a quasi-terrorist group, or very close to it, and has been identified as such.
I mean, and the whole point was, none of those statements by themselves were defamatory. I just think that the lawsuit was really baseless. It was designed, in my opinion, to silence political opponents, maybe to continue to draw attention to the controversy. Maybe that 15 minutes of fame for them had passed them by too quickly, and this was an attempt to get back into the limelight, so to speak.
But most of these individuals, including my boss Glenn and the Blaze Studios, had these allegations, this defamation suit dismissed. The judge said this is baseless, whatever. Ben is still battling this. You were here battling this morning right here in Dallas.
Yeah.
So what's the status now?
Yeah, so we just had kind of the motion on our hearing to dismiss, which is what all of the other defendants have already had in January. And so kind of technical, but in Texas we have this statute called the anti-SLAPP statute. So SLAPP is an acronym for Strategic Litigation Against Public Participation. So What it allows in cases where somebody sues somebody for defamation for exercising their First Amendment right, what it allows is us as a defendant to effectively force a hearing early on in that litigation, require the plaintiffs to bring evidence that the statements were actually amount to defamation, and by virtue of that, we can get our case heard and actually dismissed early on in the litigation, as opposed to going through maybe a year of discovery and years down the road for trial and having this, basically span out over a long period of time. We've got a situation where we're able to get these cases dismissed quickly, just within a matter of months, and by virtue of the statute, hold them liable for our attorney's fees.
Oh, wouldn't that be something? They come after you for defamation, you hit back at them. But this is, to me, this is one incident. We're talking about Clockboy. This was a national incident. I said this on my show. I said this to you. I can sit here and say that the incident that happened with Clockboy and then President Obama's reaction to the incident with Clockboy was, to me, a direct threat to the whole notion of see something, say something, a direct threat to our national security and people's ability to say something isn't right here. I'm going to go ahead and speak up because I fear that this could be a national security concern, or in this case, a concern within a school, which should be of paramount importance to us. And so when you've got Obama then saying, oh no, not only am I going to stand up for Clockboy, I'm going to invite him to the White House, you have now discouraged a lot of folks from that whole see something, say something mentality. And things like San Bernardino, to me, are a result of that. When people in that very neighborhood say, you know what, something next door isn't looking right, but I don't want to be called an Islamophobe, I don't want to be called intolerant or a bigot, so I'm going to go ahead and shut up. That has national security ramifications. But for this particular case as well, First Amendment problems and chilling effect is like, hey, guess what? If you see something, you say something, or you make commentary, use your First Amendment right, someone's going to come after you for defamation. That, to me, is what is most important that we fight back in and hit back in, and I'm glad that you guys are doing that. But how does this fit into the bigger picture of the First Amendment and our right to speak out against these kind of activities?
Well, I think that, hopefully our win that will come soon is a reaffirmation of the importance of the First Amendment. It's a critical pillar for our free society. The ability of political commentators and the media to speak freely, to express opinion, that's really kind of a foundation that our country was built upon. I think it doesn't matter whether it's conservative media, liberal media. Frankly, everybody has a First Amendment right, and what I think that the court will ultimately affirm is that there is no place for political opponents to try to silence their critics through frivolous lawsuits.
Right. Well, that's exactly the case. But this is a time right now, especially when we've got the mainstream media. You want to talk about fake news. We've got the mainstream media right now running around calling Trump's executive actions a Muslim ban. It's not a Muslim ban. If it were a Muslim ban, then there are 40 other Muslim majority countries that would be included. It's 7 that, by the way, were listed by the Obama administration. And by the way, in 2011, Obama also put a freeze on refugees coming in from Iraq. But that's something that the protesters don't want to discuss. But we're talking about this in the right to protest. It's interesting to me, and I know that this is not a left or right issue, but by and large, by the way the media covers it, in some cases it is a left and right issue. It seems to me that the media is more appreciative of the left and their ability to hold their First Amendment rights, their ability to organize and assemble and hold signs. That seems to be more near and dear to the mainstream's heart than those on the right or those in conservative media and our ability to make commentary.
Well, I mean, let's say, Glenn Beck already had the case dismissed and won the lawsuit. I don't think we saw any
no
mainstream media on.
Clockboy gets his clock cleaned by Glenn Beck. Didn't see that one out there.
Exactly, and in some instances, you may see some of these mainstream networks getting sued and winning and going out and celebrating win for the First Amendment and free society. We didn't see that here.
Only if it fits their agenda and fits their narrative, though, Chris. That's how this is going. But you know what? We're hopeful that this process, the legal process, is going to hold true, and that we just have to resort to alternative sources of media like Facebook and others to get the message out there, independent networks, because the mainstream isn't going to do it. We're going to have to do it. And I'm excited to see the progress that has been made. I'm sure that your efforts will be affirmed when this hearing is finally over. It's just, to me, it just reaffirms how important the First Amendment is and those that protect it. But thanks for being with me today.
All right.
Thank you for hitting back a little bit. Speaking out and making commentary is not Islamophobic. It's not un-American. In fact, it's the most American thing that you can do. Facebook, I have a whole lot more commentary on this Muslim ban that's actually not a Muslim ban at all coming up later on Final Thought. So I'll see you at 7 p.m. Central right here on Facebook. See you later.